Good morning, people. I just thought I'd come on and do an update, and let's talk about some stuff while I'm here about what's happening with the local candidates that are running around saying they're going to stop the card when the very party that they're standing for votes for the card. And I noticed there's some people on here that are choosing to attack the ALP because they have the policy to stop the card, and they've consistently voted to stop the card, but people don't believe them. So let's get started here, okay? I'll just come straight to the point. Over the last few weeks, a lot's been going on. During the week, I had a visit on a live that I was doing on my personal page from the Hinkler candidate for One Nation, Zach, came onto my page because his sponsored ad kept coming across my news feed, and I checked it out one day, and somebody mentioned the cashless debit card, and he was going, "Oh, I don't support that. I won't be voting for that. I'm here for my community and I'll be stopping that," type thing. And it's like, One Nation doesn't stop the cashless debit card. One Nation has voted consistently to roll it out to more places. Since Pauline Hanson got her seat in the Senate and Mr. 77 votes Malcolm Roberts got in behind her, right, Kalgoorlie, the whole Goldfields ended up on the cashless debit card, and Hinkler ended up on the cashless debit card. And on the 9th of December 2020, the whole of the Northern Territory was added to the program as a permanent program with a bit of a tweak because they couldn't get it through permanently here. All right, and now they've got the job of trying to, what I'd say, volunteer or coerce 22,000 Aboriginal people on the basics card to volunteer for the cashless debit card in the Northern Territory. So far, they've managed to get just under 2,000 out of 23,000. It's going a bit slow for them up there, the rollout. But they're on a different setting as well, and they don't have the ability to opt out, and they don't have the access to the $200 every 28 days. At the moment, I believe they're on a 50-50 split, like their basics cards. But anyway, it covers every payment up there. And we saw it take over the basics card Families Responsibilities program in the Cape York. And now those people on the cashless debit card up there are on it. There's not very many of them, but 26 of them are... 26 of them are age pensioners. 5 of them are over the age of 75, and 9 volunteered, okay? So let's get that straight. Thank you to Pauline Hanson, Malcolm Roberts and Sterling Griff. They'd caused that, all right? Because when the vote went through, and I'm sure there would have been a lot of people on this page watching it. We streamed it live on the No Cashless Debit Card Australia page that night. Other people were watching it on their computers. We had the numbers. If Pauline was genuine about for the battlers, she would never have voted it through. And Sterling Griff, he ran like a little jackrabbit out the building, so he abstained from his vote. The result was it was ayes 34, noes 33. And of course in the ayes with the LNP were Pauline and Malcolm. They're not going to change their spots. They're not going to save people. Okay, I'm going to get through different things here. I am so over the total hypocrisy of Pauline Hanson going to the freedom movement. Your rights, freedoms, and she's voted them away in the parliament consistently over the last 6 years. She's legislated people's protections in law away from people who've been forced onto cashless debit card. That's not protecting people's rights. That is not protecting your human rights. When you decide in your mind that a section of our community, Australian citizens, no longer are worthy in your mind, because I noticed that Malcolm has the undeserving and the deserving poor mentality in his cashless or cash card, whatever they want to call it, but posts, you know what I mean? I do keep an eye on what they do because they mislead people. They want votes. That's all they want. She wants votes. And she's playing to people's fears, people who have, I don't know. I'm not going to say too much, but the freedom movement. She's playing to them to get votes. Even if it means people vote against their best wishes, right? Or their best interests, and land up not only them still stuck on the card, but voting in a government again, like the LNP, and having it roll out to the rest of us. And now it's getting a lot bigger now. 6.6 million Australians at risk of this card if the LNP gets back in. Okay, that's a lot, isn't it? That's 25% of our population being privatised. And you'll have to excuse me, my internet's being a little bit dodgy. I'm noticing it's breaking up a bit. So if I'm freezing, sorry about that. So I noticed people having a little bit of a fight about ALP and can't be trusted. I don't know how many times in Hansard on the record and how many times I have to see senators standing up and voting against something over and over and over. To me, that's actions speak louder than words. So if you vote to stop something and I see you do it, then I trust you when you're going to turn around and say, we're going to scrap it. Because since 2017, right, and this started with us here in Hinkler, all right, for a lot of people on this page, you may not know the history of this page and the history of the protesting that we did. But in 2017, Bill Shorten came to Bundaberg and I was invited to where he came to visit. And there was a whole group of us, I think it was about 8 or 9 of us, went up there in our old purple no cashless debit card shirts. And we took Bill Shorten a copy of the terms and conditions that at that time applied for Ceduna in the East Kimberley, okay, and Kalgoorlie. And we were able to talk to Bill, and we were not only able to just talk to him, we handed in the terms and conditions, and we got good 30 minutes with his policy advisor, and we went through it all. That day, that night, basically that night, Labor pulled all support for the cashless debit card. Okay? People who protested out on the streets with us here in Bundaberg and Hervey Bay and all around the country, and there's 17,000 people on our national page too, right? Academics behind the scenes. And the group of us that went and fronted Bill Shorten, we did that. Right? People like SN7 who wrote all of the information, researched all of the issues to make sure, as well, that I had all the information as well. Done that. We've done that. When they brought the card to Hinkler, we fought like hell. But it was very noticeable that the government played politics with it, of course. And the only reason why the card did get in is because they moved the goalposts. The card everywhere else around the country is ages 17 to 67, apart from Cape York, where it's no age cap. Every payment, including disability support pension, carers payment, AB study, OS study, the works, right? Every payment up to age 67. Hinkler is up to age 36. Job seeker, youth allowance and parenting payment. They figured out pretty quick from our protests that they could lose a lot of their votes from the over 40s, especially in the over 60s categories. And they couldn't have that, could they? Imagine Keith Pitt losing his voter base, right? So they decided to make Hinkler a little bit different. Of course, when that happened, all the over 40s and 50s sat back down and said, it's not going to affect us. Well, it has affected them a lot. I've had people come up to me in the street that have got their grandkids on it in the region. Absolutely perplexed as to why their grandkids are on it. Why has my grandchild who's just come out of high school been put on a cashless debit card? Because that's what it does. But he doesn't drink and he doesn't take drugs. And yeah, you'll have to excuse my freezing internet. It's having a bit of a problem. It's atmospheric. Been having a few problems for a little while. But anyway, so things have changed over the last 3 years. A lot of people have come to me that are not happy because the card hasn't just affected the people that are on it, that have been forced on it. It's affected their families, their parents and their grandparents. Because their families, of the ones that have family support, are feeling the ripple effects. I want people on the cashless debit card in this region to, don't forget, you have the power to get rid of this card and get off the card at the ballot box. Don't be tricked into giving your vote to a party that has consistently voted to keep you on the card, right? Not put bills up like in November to try and get you off again, which is what ALP did. So, I mean, I couldn't believe it. The candidate for One Nation Hinkler is trying to tell me that he's not going to vote for the card if he gets elected. If he gets elected. Pauline's not going to let him do that. She wants to roll out. I've got plenty of video footage ready to go. I'm just not very good at video editing to do it. I use TikTok a fair amount. She's not going to stop. She wants it for all Australians and she wants it rolled out. I mean, his excuse was, oh, it's only for job seekers. No, it's not. And what made me sick was when people on the disability support pension started trying to ring her from Kalgoorlie that were having big issues, their office hung up on those people and called them liars. And to this day, right, Pauline won't ever say that there's people on disability and their carers on the card anywhere in the country. She always makes it out as though it's job seekers, right? And that she always keeps saying it's under 35s. Yet you have to be 36 to get off it in Hinkler. All right, little things like that. But I'm sick of the what I call the fake freedom fighter, because she's not fighting for anybody's rights, because she's already legislated those away. Legislated your protection of payment under Social Security law. All right, that's the law that protects all Social Security recipients from a third party being able to take over their payments without their consent. The Morrison government, right, and Morrison, when he was the Social Services Minister, couldn't repeal that law. It's a Commonwealth Act. So he had to think of a way to get around it. So they used a legislative instrument to exempt forced card holders from the protection of that law. So there's legal rights, number one, gone. Your consumer rights under law. ACCC, ASIC have all got this. The government's issued a letter of no action for Indu to be able to breach your consumer rights. That's why when you look in your cashless debit card T&C's booklet, there's a pattern of we don't take responsibility for this. We don't take responsibility. If we pay your bills late, you cop the default fees. That's not our problem. Right? They are consumer rights breaches, but Indu are protected. So you've got no comeback when you can't pay your rent, you can't pay it on time, if you end up getting evicted. But a lot of people have up here been evicted. Right? A lot of people around the country on the card have been evicted. And I've spoken to landlords that have made it very clear after being burnt, right, by Indu, not paying rents on time or not even paying rents at all, they will no longer rent to people on the cashless debit card. We have a severe housing crisis, and there's a lot of homeless in Bundaberg and Hervey Bay. But if you're on a cashless debit card, you've got an even bigger barrier, all right? Because you got nowhere. A lot of people have moved from Hervey Bay to outside, across the country, different states. I've met quite a few of them, right? Because they couldn't get housing. They got left homeless and they couldn't get housing. So, let's get off Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts. We all know how they stand. Their actions in the Senate speak louder than their words in public. The way that they voted is the way that they will continue to vote. They've shown no mercy. Okay? They've stripped people of their privacy rights. All the data is sold. They've taken away people's autonomies. They've left people in a situation where Serco call centre staff are condescendingly telling people what they can and can't do. Right? It has caused mental health stress, homelessness in this region and every other region that the card goes to. And it stripped people's dignity. And we saw when it first rolled in how, because of the way the media structured the welfare bashing, as soon as someone whipped out a cashless debit card in Hinkler, oh, you've got the druggie card. All right? Going right down to a 170-odd-year-old lady snatching a 3-year-old from a lady in Kmart in Hervey Bay and started trying to walk off with this kid and saying, oh, I'll take you to the police, honey. Your mum's a drug addict because she's using the card at Kmart. How frightening for that parent. And I did speak to that parent personally about that. I caught up with that young lady and I was, oh my God. You know, people still have problems today. They still get judged. A lot of people have become reclusive. Can't go to community events. What's the point? They're cash only. You know, a lot of cash only stuff. A lot of people are suffering. Don't forget, at the ballot box, they're going to try everything, and Zach is going to try everything to convince you that he's going to vote against it. He's going to vote against his own party. I think not. I think not. So let's move on to the next one. I had this lovely woman ring me up. Who are you? Oh, I'm the candidate for UAP, United Australia Party. Oh my God, here we go. I'd already been tipped off that they were going to do again what they did in 2019. Clive's going to announce that he doesn't support the cashless debit card because it breaches your human rights. Freedoms, freedoms, freedoms. Another one. So let's have a little bit of a history lesson here. In 2016, when Clive Palmer was in the federal government as Palmer United Party, please don't forget this. He didn't do very much. He slept a lot on the front bench, up there in the House of Reps. You know, he slept there in his seat, or he wasn't there. But when he was there, the brief time that he showed up, he voted to take away the mining resources tax. That was our money as Australians. That was our money back from our resources that they sell. He didn't want to pay his $20 million tax bill. So, right, the LNP wanted to dump the tax because, of course, we can't have billionaires paying tax, can we? So, of course, he voted that through. And he voted a couple of other things to do with mining to make it easier for him and his mining. And that was it. So you're thinking, how does this come into the cashless debit card? Well, remember Jackie Lambie? She was Palmer United Party Senate. She was in the Senate for him. Jackie got dumped with a lot. Every bill that came through from the House of Reps that he hadn't even shown up for, that he was absent or didn't vote on, came through. Jackie had to vote for it. Jackie voted the card through to start the trial in 2016, Ceduna and East Kimberley. And it was supposed to be a 1-year trial. People were lied to. They were told it was a 1-year trial and it was going to be a targeted program to those on their New Start that had issues. Not everybody. When the card rolled into town, it was a blanket rollout, everybody aged 17 to 67. Right? There are 65-year-old people on that cashless debit card in that town as we speak. Half the town is 1,100 so people are on the cashless debit card. The population's down to 2,200 people, right? Something like 2,000 people have moved out of Ceduna, right? It has killed Ceduna. A lot of problems have come out of Ceduna, and Ceduna's in a mess. And they still haven't got a rehab like they were promised or anything like that for their 67 people that had trouble. So I want people to understand, when a UAP candidate says, we'll stop the card, really? Jackie was the bunny that voted through to not only start it, but also push it. She really believed in the program. We thought there was no way she'd ever vote against it. She was always so hard to get to. I met her here. I took people on cashless debit card to meet her here in Harvey. I met her at Harvey Bay. I took her the Indu terms and conditions, you know, your booklet. Because the one thing I found they all had in common, none of the politicians out had this. None of them. She was eyes on this the whole conversation, the whole time we had a meeting. And at the end she goes, can I have it? I said, of course you can. I've never seen it, she says. All right. These are people that are voting your lives away, not reading legislation, not reading the bills, and not reading the terms and conditions in which people's lives are controlled by. Excuse me, coughing. I'm not well, and I'm going to cough a lot. So, anyway, UAP are going to... I'm sick to death of UAP adverts on... I can't get away from it. If it's not on TV, if it's not text messages through my phone, it's on bloody YouTube. It's everywhere. It's overload. So, UAP candidate is a lady. I'm sorry I did write her name down. I don't mean to be rude for forgetting her name, but I support the parties that supported us all the way through. I support the parties that when I rang up, when card holders came to me for help, I rang senators and I rang MPs and I put card holders in touch with those people, and a fair amount of those people managed to get off the cashless debit card. That's who I trust. Now, up until last year, Rachel Seward was a mountain of a fighter. Rachel came here up to Harvey Bay, she came to Bundaberg, she came and stood with us to fight to stop the card. The Labor Party have been up and, the Labor Party have voted against the card since 2017, the Federal Labor Party. State Labor, they stood on the side of the road with us every campaign we did. Throughout 2017 and 2018, all right, they fought with us. Tom Smith, Bundaberg, Adrian Tantari of Harvey Bay all got out and campaigned and protested with us. Okay? Again, actions prove more than words. UAP can do a big campaign and go, we don't support the card like you did last time. Alright? All they're doing is shopping for votes. All they want to do is keep Keith Pitt in the seat. Now, they claim they don't want LNP in, right? But they don't want ALP in either, because if Labor gets in, the card stops, we get to protect our Medicare, right? As a lot of you have noticed by now, your bulk billing services are shrinking, your medicine's gone up, and there's a lot of procedures all of a sudden you've got to pay for, courtesy of the LNP cuts to Medicare. And I don't care if there's trolls that go, oh, Medicare. It's like, no, Medifact. Greg Hunt made it very clear in Parliament. Again, you can watch this. I watch what people say. And he wanted the American system. He wanted the insurance-based, what I call non-healthcare system, because only the wealthy can afford healthcare, right, and proper health insurance. They want to move Australia to the insurance-based system of healthcare. In other words, privatise it. And we've seen that already. We can't risk that, people. We really can't. Labor have always protected Medicare, always believed in a universal health care for everybody. And anybody who's willing to throw that on the scrap heap, I mean, I must put it out there to people watching me right now in this region that are on a cashless debit card and are bloody sick of it and bloody over it. Are you going to vote for a party that has consistently voted against it, right, and has promised to scrap it if they get elected and protect your Medicare and do a lot more for you than what the LNP, One Nation or UAP will ever do? Do you want off the card? If you want off the card, you're going to need to vote for ALP. There is Greens candidates as well. There's one for Bundaberg. The Greens candidate for Wide Bay contacted me as well, just to ask for some information about the card. Right? We know that the Greens will support Labor if Labor can get in, and because remember, everything's got to go through the Senate. The Greens will always support Labor. If Labor's putting in a bill to scrap the card, the Greens will support that. Depending on where you live around the regions, you might come across an Australian Progressives on your ticket. If you do, his policy is to scrap the card. He's a newbie, but if you go and check out his policy platform, oh, it's refreshing, to say the least. At the end of the day, I'm not a member of a political party. I never have been. For the last, where are we? 5 years in this region, I've stood between Labor and Greens in the fight. People would have seen me out on the street. We went to all the public meetings. We did all the public meetings that we did because the government didn't do proper consultation. They didn't do public meetings. They came with the DSS and they dictated to people, you will learn to live another way, was what we got told in their idea of meetings. That wasn't consultation, that was being dictated to. You know, now watch out for the Lib Dems. Campbell Newman. Everybody up here, I'm not from Queensland, but nobody's forgiven him for what he did before, okay? Sacking all the public servants, sacking so many nurses, defunding so much healthcare, and stripping assets from Queensland. I think that's enough said. Now, Campbell Newman, I saw a video recently, I'll have to try and track it down, of Pauline Hanson in a public meeting, doing like a freedom rally meeting at Ipswich. And of course, trying to convince people don't trust the ALP or LNP. Well, we don't want the LNP at all, right? But she had Campbell Newman with her at that meeting and she made reference to him. Oh, I've got Campbell Newman here. If they're not, why would the Lib Dems be at a One Nation doing a public event? You have to ask why. And then we saw Campbell Newman on the TV with Clive Palmer, and Clive Palmer's endorsing him, and hang on a minute, these are supposed to be separate parties. To me, they're fake freedom fighters. All have played a part in taking freedoms away in law. I'm sure many people will understand some of the laws that Campbell Newman introduced. But I think the worst thing for me, and I'm not a greenie, but the worst thing I think Campbell Newman did was he signed the Adani contract when the Queensland government was in caretaker mode just before, I think it was Anna Palaszczuk took over. That's illegal in itself. You're not supposed to sign contracts in caretaker mode when a government is in care, but he did. And Queensland got stuck with Adani, which has caused all manner of troubles for the Aboriginal people up there, for what it's going to mean for our water. Let's have a quick talk about water. We live in a region, water is critical. Bundaberg farmers, they're all LNP supporters. I don't understand why. LNP, One Nation and UAP all voted not to protect Australian fresh water. That underpins our farming and agriculture. I would have thought that would have been a big thing. Again, actions speak better than words. They can't go out in public and go, we're going to do this and this and this, and then go into the Senate or the House of Reps and vote it opposite, which is what they're doing, what they have been doing. Now they're screaming about koalas going endangered. One Nation voted against protection of, against having a bill, against protecting koala habitat. Who votes not to protect koala habitat? But she's voted for plenty of coal seam gas, fracking, right? Anything that's not renewables. It's like, please, people, go and see the site, how they vote for you. I've noticed it's been toned down a little bit because the language was, on some of the things I've got, is how Pauline Hanson voted strongly for or against, and now that's been mostly for and against. You know what I mean? Go and check out what they've been doing. I know a lot of people don't get to see it because it's not on TV. So people don't get to see how these things are voted for in the Senate and how bills pass. You can watch Parliament View on your computer when it's sitting. But a lot of people might be at work during the day, because I know there's a lot of people on the cashless debit card up here that have jobs. But please, people, how they vote for you site can help you, show you. Actions speak louder than words. They really do. Where they've voted, what they've voted for. Don't fall for, we're going to stop the card when they've never done it before, when they've always voted for it. And in Pauline Hanson's case, the vitriol, the vilification and the spite behind it, right? It's just been disgusting. Yeah, that's what I can say. Don't come on here bashing the Labor Party, right? Because I'm just going to delete comments. Don't bring conspiracy theorists or, but Labor's going to do this and Labor's going to do that. No, Labor's going to stop the card. They're going to scrap the program. They're going to give people back their rights. They're going to give people back the human rights that are being ignored and currently breached. Article 9, to start with, which is your right to social security, the rights of the children, the rights to take part in community and events and stuff like that. Please, people, think, don't fall down the hole. There is 6,900 plus people on the cashless debit card in the Hinkler region. I want to see everybody. There's over 15,000 people on it around the card. I want them all off. Everybody who's been forced into watching their credit rating get destroyed, their rental ledger get destroyed, have their lives destroyed. I want them to have their lives back. That's what the fight's about. I don't want the card for me, I don't want it for my daughter, and I don't want it for everybody else out there. That's what the fight's about. Now, I need volunteers coming up to election time. I need people to help pre-poll, because we need to educate people. All right? I'd like some volunteers, if you want to contact me, that can help me get leaflets out and go and talk to people. All right? So that we can educate a lot of people who have only ever heard Keith Pitt talk on the news about how wonderful the card is. we need to reach the people that I've only ever seen the 6 o'clock news and haven't been on this page, haven't had any contact with a person who's on a cashless debit card, who hasn't seen it. And I need help to do that. So I need people in this region, if you've had a gut full of being on the card, please contact me. Stand up with me, right? Especially card holders, stand up with me. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got genuine grievances. And let's do this. And we'll get out in the next 3 months and educate the people as to why we need to change the government up here. And we need to get rid of... See, I'm on the border of 2 electorates here. Lou O'Brien, I've lived in Maryborough now for 3 years nearly. Never seen hide nor hear of him here. He didn't come out during the floods to help. Nothing. Right? Albo turned up. Anna Palaszczuk turned up. Everybody turned up. Our mayor, George Seymour, didn't sleep for a week while they were out organising the pumps and flood crisis management. You know, so it's hard. Yeah, it's a no-brainer to me. Lou O'Brien says in the paper he doesn't want the card for Gympie. He forgets that Maryborough's part of his electorate. But then he goes and votes for it. Again, actions speak louder than words. But they fool you with their words. He puts it in the newspaper. No, I don't support the card. Right? But he didn't rebel and he didn't stand up and say no. And you'll find him on the voting paper as voting yes. So that's all I can say at the moment. So Craig Kelly voted for the card. I'm not sure whether he was actually... I'm not sure whether he was Liberal, Independent or UAP at the time. I don't know. There's a video that he did after he stepped down from being the Liberal Party, and he was being evasive as to whether he was going to join the UAP, and he was telling the reporter, it doesn't matter anyway because he will never not give the LNP supply. They will always have his vote on every policy, right, that he's been voting on and going forward. Remember that. Craig Kelly said that he will always give his vote to the LNP on every policy that they've already voted on and going forward. You know, yeah, time to change the government. Give Labor a go. If you hate Labor so much, I know some people are going to vote Greens, that's fine. As for the independents, I don't know who's what. I don't trust a lot of independents. I do trust Australian progressives. Spoken to him quite a lot. He managed to get onto the Q&A show and have a go about the cashless debit card, something I've never been able to go and do. All right, and reject any candidate that says, I only care about my region. Yes, very good point, Amanda Tesler. All right, so I want to point something out here. We ran across this a lot when we were lobbying senators. And I would ring up and they go, oh, I only help my candidates in my region. I said, hang on a minute, you're a federal senator, right? Or you're a federal MP, right? And you are voting on a policy that impacts people outside your electorate. So therefore, you're voting on a policy that impacts the whole of Australia, right? So therefore, you should hear the voices of those outside your electorate that are going to be impacted. Right? Well, the candidate for One Nation, Zach, was asking me for the data stats as to who was on the card and where. So I pulled it up. This was on a live video on my my personal Facebook page, and you can see it because I did make it public. And it was interesting. So I start giving him the data, and he goes, no, I just want my region. I just want my region, right? I'm not interested in the rest. Bingo. You're not interested in the other 8,000 or so people on the cashless debit card outside your region. Those on disability, carers, ab study, off study, right? People in their 60s, age pensioners in the car. Not interested. He was not in. I'm only interested in the constituents of Hinkler, right? He doesn't give a damn about the card holders. What does that tell you? He spent time arguing with me on a live on my Facebook page, right, telling me how he's going to stop the card, how he's going to go against Pauline Hanson in the party if he gets elected, and he's going to stop the card for Hinkler, right? He couldn't give a stuff about the rest. That tells me he doesn't give a stuff about stopping the card. He just wants to get votes. And he's very naive too. So, yes, that was a very good point there. You know, yeah, it's just, yeah, if a candidate says, I'm only interested in my region, remind them that they are voting for the whole country if they get that seat in the Senate or in the House of Reps. They carry more than just their own region. And if they don't care about those outside their region, no. So we've got the situation, right? Labor will scrap the card. We've been fighting for years to get this, and we got it. When we started this fight in 2016, originally, Labor was supporting the cashless debit card trials. By 2017, after the visit with Bill Shorten, and a lot of lobbying from a lot of people that we put the call out, and people on the card in other regions, Labor stopped supporting it. Okay? Labor continued to vote against it. If they could have got in last election, they would have stopped it, and they would have wound it back, and they would have had a look at the contracts, and they would have, but they didn't have a clue what was going on. They didn't know what contracts, what was going on, because everything's hidden under commercial in confidence, or commercial in cabinet is the new one now. But now they've come forward, and in 2020 their caucus voted unanimously to stop the card, and that's what they're going to do. I'm not risking it. No matter what your political persuasion is, don't risk it. Don't risk another LNP government. Don't let One Nation and Craig Kelly and Campbell Newman, right, and now we've got Lou O'Brien jumping in, screaming freedoms and rights, trick you into voting away your freedoms in law. Because remember, they've already voted through the Parliament to remove Protections of Payments Act for your payment. That's a legal removal. Consumer rights, protections at law. Statutory rights. We don't even take that away from convicted prisoners sitting in jail cells. But that's been removed from people on a cashless debit card. Privacy rights. All your data is collected and sold overseas. Your children's school attendance records, where you go, what you buy, everything you do on the card, and the data is all sold for profit. And you have no privacy, especially when you run into condescending staff on the other end of the phone, which many people here would have. Your autonomy and self-determination, your dignity and self-esteem, and your self-worth, right? And your human rights are being ignored and breached in real, under the UNCHR, under real human, international and domestic rights abuses. The cashless debit card breaches Brisbane, Queensland human rights as well, but because it's a federal policy, it goes over the top. So we need a Bill of Rights nationally, federally, in order to stop that from happening, where the federal government can just steamroll over the top like they have been doing. We need ALP in to stop the card, protect our Medicare, right? NDIS, aged care sector, the works. We can't risk another LNP government. People like me won't survive it at all, right? If I don't have access to hospital which at the moment I do. And I've been very fortunate in the last few weeks and had some really good doctors and appointments and CT scans, and I've only had to cough up for an MRI so far. But if my life after May is trying to find money for specialist appointments, I'm dead in a year. Not 5 or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Because I just won't be able to pay for it. And they'll have as many people on the card as fast as they can. So people don't fall for it. And don't fight on our page. Alright? I don't. All the way along, and everybody would know since this page started, we don't do conspiracy theories. We don't do anti-vax stuff. We don't do any vilification of people on Social Security. We don't do any sexism, ageism, any isms. Alright? No xenophobia, no bigotry. They've always been the page rules from day dot. So I won't tolerate people bringing crap here and start carrying on and the usual what I'm hearing from Pauline Hanson. All right? We can't have any LNP adjacent independents. We can't trust them. As I said, the only independents I trust, Amanda Tesler saying, are Australian progressives. Go and look at his policies. Andrew Wilkie in Tasmania and Helen Haynes are the only independents that I would trust. All right? People need to know. I'll just clarify this too. The last bill that went through the Parliament, Jackie Lambie voted to stop the card as Jackie Lambie Network. Okay? She has since come out twice and made it very clear she will not support another bill going through. She will not support the cashless debit card again. To be fair on her, because I mentioned her at the beginning with the history of Palmer United Party, right? She did change her vote, and that, to be fair. Okay? And in South Australia, Senator Rex Patrick voted against the card. But that got a bit prickly there. Yeah, he looked at it from an engineer's point of view, which is really weird. So, other than that, what can I say? Look, Labor will scrap the card. Greens will support Labor to scrap the card. We know that in the Senate. All right. In the House of Reps, Andrew Wilkie will always vote against the card. Helen Haynes will vote against the card in the House of Reps. We know that. They've done that over and over and over. All right. Can't speak for Australian progressives yet because he's never been in. But it's his policy to stop the card. And to a whole heap of other social justice policies. So, that's all I can say to you guys is when it comes time to vote, be very careful. Don't get sucked in. Alright? And don't inadvertently vote to keep yourselves on the cashless debit cards because Pauline would love that. And when Zach says to you, oh no, I'm not going to do that, and I'm watching people go, oh, you're my hero, yeah, right. He can't vote against his party. And Pauline has made a commitment to the LNP to vote with the LNP. She's not going to stop now. She hasn't stopped in 6 years. She just wants another 6 years at that trough. Okay? She doesn't care about your rights, my rights. She made that very clear. She seems to think that I must bow down and kiss the feet of a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. That's all she's on about. Right? And Malcolm Roberts believes in the undeserving and the deserving poor. I don't believe that methodology. I don't believe in that sort of rubbish. All right? Australian citizens are Australian citizens. And when you start tinkering and taking away legal protections from Australian citizens and making them effectively non-citizens, you know, a lower class that, you know, makes me question my own citizenship because, yeah. Anyway, guys, think carefully before you vote. We do have rights, actually, Amanda, but they go around them, they ignore them. But we do have rights. There is rights. You know, we have, up until this government, we had the strongest consumer rights laws in the world. When people had problems with basic things with companies, they were able to just go to fair trade and go through the ACCC and get stuff done. You know, that's the consumer right. Where they've breached it is sending out cards to people without their consent. That's soliciting. Setting up that account in their name and stealing 80% of their money and putting it on it without their consent. But then there's all the other breaches of when Indu stuffs up because they're controlling the money, they're not taking responsibility for sorry, I couldn't read the sarcasm. They don't take responsibility for what they cause people, and people have got no recourse. So, anyway, guys, I'm going to, Pauline Hanson's favourite words. If you're on welfare, you have no rights. Pigs ask Pauline. I'm going to fight for them. I'm going to keep fighting for them. And you can keep telling your people, whatever. I'm over the fake freedom fighters, all right, that have led a lot of people up a garden path like the Pied Piper. She can go to the Canberra Freedom Rally, but she can't go to work while she's in Canberra. Something wrong there. Yeah, people are paying her to be at work. $211,000 a year plus all the perks, all the travel, all the extras. All right? Why should she care about a little old lady who's getting $6 worth of food and starving away in a nursing home with bed sores and maggots and infection? Why should she care? All right? She wouldn't. She's getting $181 a day meal allowance and free alcohol, and she's getting her $275 accommodation allowance while she's in Canberra. Why would she care about somebody who's homeless because of the cashless debit card that she voted through? If somebody's lost a really good rental that they've been in for years and had a really good credit rating, why would Pauline care? She's on, 10 or 15 times people's incomes. You know what I mean? She's out of touch. It's her job to it's her job to fight to protect people's rights and not deny them. But she's denying people, Australia, and moaning in the Senate about, if you're on welfare, you've lost your rights. Yes, Pauline, because you're voting them away. You're voting them away. Don't forget, people. Anyway, as I said, if you're local up here in the Wide Bay region, in Hinkler region, if you're Hervey Bay or Maryborough, and you want to volunteer to help get stuff done, please let me know, because I need volunteers. It's all right, everybody going, we love you, you're doing a wonderful job, but and I've just got a mobility scooter to get out and about and do stuff, but I can't do it by myself, and I need to be able to have some people that are prepared to pre-poll, hand out leaflets and talk to people, or get out with me during the week, talk to people. Okay,